Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I got a really good viewer question the other day that had to do with this trend where a lot of people are saying don't use the skirt to say a vibrating jig or a spinnerbait or a swim jig and just go direct with the trailer that's on there. So in this case, instead of throwing the skirted vibrating jig, you'd go ahead and put on just the trailer and you get a bait that has more erratic motion generally, because the skirt actually creates drag in the water. And by creating the drag in the water, the bait doesn't hunt as much as they say. It doesn't have that crazy darting motion that a lot of times triggers those erratic strikes. Now that is the case with a lot of your baits, whether it's a vibrating jig or a spinner bait or a swim jig, anything that has a skirt, buzz bait. So the question was, well, why would you throw a skirt? Is the skirt only for largemouth? What's the point of throwing a skirt if you think you get more hunting motion without it? Well, there's a lot of reasons why you should throw a skirt, in my opinion. So that's kind of what I want to address. Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app. This has had an amazing new update. As you guys know, I love the water clarity feature. As you can see right here, we're looking at Grand Lake, which just had a whole pile of rain come into it. It went from being really clear to having a lot of dirty water coming in the bottom end of it. Just an amazing feature to be able to determine where the clear water is versus the muddy water. So Deep Dive has just also introduced Stream Flow. Now this is a really cool feature that shows all of the water input coming into certain reservoirs and the amount of water coming in. So they measure it in cubic feet per second. You can see in this case, this is just a small creek, but then you can see the projected as well as the previous flows. If we move up the lake here, get into one of the larger rivers coming in, you can see here that we've got 490 cubic feet per second. And then it shows you that there's not much of a change expected. Now, if there's some rainfall coming, I'm sure those projections will change. If we scoot on over here to take a look at Kentucky Lake and Barkley Lake, much larger river systems, the Tennessee River, you can see what the projected outflow is going to be there, 28,000 cubic feet per second. Go check the Cumberland River here. We got 9.4 thousand cubic feet per second. Just an amazing feature that allows you to see all of the different water flows coming into the different parts of the lake. You can see which ones might be the most affected, which ones won't be affected, see what the projected outflow schedules are. A major feature to help you catch more fish. And that's on top of some of the other new features like the wind effects. Now, the wind effects is really cool because we've had wind effects as part of the app in the past, but all it did is show where the wind was hitting the shoreline the most, as you can see from the dots, the orange and bright red dots, which indicate where the wind is really striking. But now the wind feature also indicates what the wave action is like on the lake itself. So some of the features you're going to get from this is determining where to get from place to place safely by avoiding the heavy, rough water conditions. You'll be able to determine where you may have some of the strongest current flow and some of the places where you can fish to stay protected. Now, along with that, you still have some of my favorite features like the patterns that you've got on the lake that indicate the best baits and lures to fish with. You've also got the water inflow app, which shows you where a bunch of the rain input comes in. That can be an amazing pattern to fish throughout the year. Just a great feature to have. So many positive features anytime you're fishing or using the Deep Dive app. Just points you in the right direction to catch more fish. Whether you're a tournament angler or a local fun fisherman that's just out to catch a few fish, the Deep Dive app will help you catch more fish next time you're out on the water. There's a lot of reasons why you should use a bait with a skirt on it. So let's talk a little bit about the skirt. And in the first place, the first question that was asked was, is a skirt only for largemouth? And that is absolutely not the case. The skirt works great for smallmouth, spotted bass, largemouth, pretty much all game fish. The skirt gives you a lot of value. So don't think skirts are only for largemouth. Now, the reasons why your skirt are so important varies. Now, the first and foremost, as you look at it, what it does is it creates bulk. So if you just had the trailer on there, you'd have a much more streamlined bait. But as soon as you add the skirt, you get a bigger, bulkier profile. So that can do a bunch of different things. You know, if you're fishing off-colored water, it gives off more vibration, allows the fish to feel the bait better. At the same time, because the skirt does create a little bit of drag, it also allows the fish to inhale your bait better, and it allows the fish the ability to find your bait better. So those are all very valuable things. Now, the skirt isn't only about creating bulk and profile, and it does create more of a bait fish profile, but in my opinion, the most important thing to your skirt is that it gives off movement. And that movement does a couple of different things. So when that skirt's in the water, the skirt pieces undulate, and that movement gives the bait a different perception than if you were just throwing a plastic trailer on the back. That movement helps bring the bait to life. It allows the fish something to key in on, but it also is something that triggers the fish to bite a lot of times. So, excuse me, when your bait hunts, the skirt moves in different directions. And that skirt movement is a lot of times the erratic motion that generates the reaction strike from the fish. So don't forget about that movement. Now, the other thing I'll also state with the movement is it allows the bait to have a lot of movement going on in different direction. And in my opinion, what that does is a really good job at mimicking a bait ball. If you've ever watched a bait ball movement, you might have 10 bait fish, you might have 1,000 bait fish, but they generally move in a similar situation or a similar movement. But a lot of times one will move one way and the other one will move the different way until it realizes the group moved that, to the right. So they'll all move with it. Well, that's kind of what happens with your skirt is you have the perception that there are multiple bait fish because you have a lot of different movement. And when you have the idea of a bait fish or a bait ball, a lot of times what that does is it generates bigger strikes. You get the idea, and in my opinion, you have bigger fish more interested in eating a bait ball than a single individual bait fish. I think that's something we say with like the Alabama rig. The Alabama rig's great at generating strikes from bigger fish because in my opinion, bigger fish don't want to expel the energy to go after one bait fish when they could eat an entire bait ball. So I personally feel like you get better than average size bites from fish when you have a skirt. You get potentially more bites, but a lot of them are from smaller size fish that are just trying to get an easy meal from an individual. Now, that doesn't mean you won't catch big fish without a skirt, because you absolutely will do that. But there's a lot of reasons why that skirt is important. So don't think you shouldn't just throw it. Now, I also want to point out that you should keep in mind that you can modify the skirt to give you the look and feel that you're after. I've done a lot of videos talking about how I go ahead and trim them, but just in a nutshell, just keep in mind that if you remove skirt material, not only does that allow a lot of the other material to flow more freely, but it also reduces the profile, it reduces the overall look of that bait. So depending on the conditions that you're after, don't be afraid to modify the skirt that it comes with right out of the package. And that doesn't necessarily just mean you need to trim it back. You can add material to a skirt or add a skirt to a bait that is more full or different colors or has different materials. But modification of the skirt can be a big key to the success of an angler. And then I also want to point out, in a nutshell, again, if you're looking to fish a skirt, in my opinion, really will outperform a non-skirted bait in your dirtier water. So the dirtier the bait gets, I generally like to have the skirt. And again, that's based on profile. It's based on moving more water. It overall, I think, just allows the fish to track it better. I think the same thing for night fishing. So in your low light conditions, I feel like you get a much better hookup ratio, a much better bite ratio when you throw a skirt versus non-skirted stuff. And then at the same time, I'd say if you're looking for better than average size bites, the skirt will help you get there. It's kind of the same thing, if you're fishing a jig in my opinion gets better than average size bites compared to a Texas rig, of just a craw, say, instead of having the skirt with a craw trailer. So I do think that there is a time and a place. Now, to go the other way, if you want to throw just the bait with whatever technique it is that you're fishing, a lot of times I feel like that excels much better in your really clear water conditions. it just, again, has to do with a sight thing. In that case, you're not necessarily looking to create a bigger profile. You're actually looking for more hunting motion because the fish get a much better look at your bait. But please do not think because there's a trend to move away from the skirts, that the skirts are not valuable. They have a time and a place where they will generate a lot more bites if you have them on. So hopefully this kind of helps clarify that. I got that question in a comment, and I felt like it deserved a video because it just would take too long to type it out. I'd rather just talk it out with you guys. So hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow for you.